LFC Daytrippers, brought to you by bookmakers.com.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers. This is No Transfer Knowledge, the transfer show where we tell you what we think, but we haven't got a clue what's going on. So if we say, oh, I really think Liverpool should sign this player, it doesn't mean we know Liverpool are going to sign this player. That's how it works. Where do I want to start? Well, I want to start with our charity. Breast cancer research. We are looking to raise €20,000 for 12 women running the Dublin Marathon later on this year. We currently sit at 17,000 plus, but we are looking to get to 20,000. So the link is in the description if you want to donate. If you can't donate, copy the link, send it to your friends, your family, your colleagues, print it out, stick it in the canteen and work, stick it on bus stops. Toilets and pubs is a really good idea. Actually, I thought about that today because people put loads of stuff on the walls of toilets. So if you have a Sharpie with you and you have a great memory, write down the link on some toilet wall. With me tonight is Dom from the Road End Pod, Liverpool fan, and then an Arsenal fan who I'm dying to talk to about Arsenal summer business. Later on, we'll be joined by Jamie, who's a Spurs fan, and we go through some sports stuff. But we'll also do some Everton, some Chelsea, some United, and whoever at Newcastle, whoever else comes up in the chat as we go along. Stick your comments in there, and I'll read out as many as I possibly can. Dom, how are you?
I'm good. Nice to be back.
Yeah, long time no see.
Yeah, how's things?
Good. I'm trying to plan my next point with you in Liverpool, which will be mid-August. And we'll definitely we like having a point, don't we?
Yeah.
We never meet without drinking.
No.
No.
I think that's the first rule for everything, though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not like it'd be really good to see it. It's like, what pub are we meeting you in? Which is usually so. That's how me and Dom work. Dom, I'm going to get to Liverpool in a little bit. Then you're a fair regular on a Friday night with the lads, Chris and Kevin, the gang, Luke. But how are you? Because Arsenal, exciting summer so far, more excitement to come, I think. How are you? All things being said.
All good. Birthday months, I can't complain. I've got a lot going on, not really been working, but it's always good to be on this channel. Good to be on with you for the first time, but always happy to come back on. And like you say, so far it's looking good. A few things taking a while to get over the line, which I'm sure we'll get into. But so far we can't complain. We're showing ambition. So I'm enjoying the break from football, but I'm also glad to be on talking about things transfers. I'm enjoying not watching football, to be honest, and the cricket and stuff has been keeping us occupied, and Wimbledon and stuff like that. But it's always nice to come on and not have to worry about a result or such, and just talk about the things, off the field.
Dylan O'Rourke says, keep the Arsenal fan and the Spurs fans away from each other is the best approach for sure. I think it'll be all right.
They're not in our level anymore anyway. It's fine.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love the way North London swings like a massive pendulum. The pendulum in Liverpool is just stuck on the red side and has been for decades. But Ashley L says, Gav, do you have enough cushions on that couch? More than enough for me. There'll probably more be added, Ashley. Keep an eye out, because on them walls behind me, there's more stuff going up on them as this room behind me gets developed at a very, very slow pace. But thanks for your concerns. I'll pass it to my wife. Then I'm going to start with you. Arsenal. Really good season last year. Pushed Man City a fair distance, in fairness. Arsenal were top notch for the vast majority of the season. Ran over a little bit of steam for me. And that was mainly down to personnel. Not enough bodies. maybe 13, maybe 14 players. A bit like Liverpool, I thought in 2013-14, where we did sensational first 11, and then after that you're kind of going, we have to put him in where City can, change 3 or 4 for 3 games on the bounce, and they're absolutely fine. Going into this summer, people were wondering what Arsenal would do, and Arsenal have done quite well. Kai Havertz is in. I believe a deal is agreed with Declan Rice, but nothing's being confirmed yet. Saliba signed a new deal. Saka signed a new deal. So there's loads going on. I'm sure they've signed another player as well. I just can't remember him. But so far in the summer, it's been really good from Arsenal. Really, really good.
Yeah, we're showing the right ambition, and we haven't shown it for quite some time. In all honesty, the sort of money we're spending already speaks, great large volumes. Kai Havertz, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting him to be the first signing out of all the players that we're going to sign this summer. Considering the depth that we had in that position already, I think in terms of attacking midfielder, which I'd like to think he is, we've got Odegaard there. We've got Smith Rowe, who's coming back through the ranks for England under 21s. He's just won a trophy, so he's definitely going to be putting his name out there next season. And Fabio Vieira, who hasn't looked great. But yeah, we've got names there. And I think for me, it's one of them, like I said 2 seasons ago, and I've probably said on this channel before, as long as we tick the other boxes, I'm all for it. Big money spent, so it's gonna leave weight on his shoulders. It always does. We saw what happened with Nicolas Pepe. That didn't work out, but we'll see about Kai Havertz. I think under Chelsea, it just it wasn't there for him. There was lots of things going wrong at Chelsea, and it was a tough nut to crack for anyone to try and hit form or even shine within that team, because it was just going wrong all over the place. But I'm excited by what we're doing. I still think there's a bit more to do, even with the signing of Rice and Juri and Timber. I think even with them, there's still a few areas where I'd look and think, now that we're in that Champions League conversation, we're going to need the depth. We struggled last year, and it wasn't particularly in the areas where we've signed players at the moment. Rice is a good addition to the midfield, but we've lost Xhaka, so it's kind of like one step forward, one step back, 2 steps forward. And if there was to be an injury to Rice or Partey, we're kind of back to square one. You're sort of looking at it and you think, right, who slots in there? I just hope it's the start of what means to go on, and it's not the end. Really excited by it, and I can't wait to see the Declan Rice deal just get done. It's kind of getting a bit jarring now, back and forth. Like all this, the media ruin things. We all know that. Stevie Wonder could probably walk in and tell you that media are ruining things these days. It's there for everyone to see. But it's been talked about for weeks, and it looks like it is wrapped up. I'm pretty sure the medical's probably been done, and it's just a case of the real nitty gritty getting done at the end of the line in terms of the first payment or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, great signing so far. I think maybe 1 or 2 more, maybe an extra midfielder would be good. The player from Southampton would have really been a good idea, in my opinion. There's been 2 players particularly that went to Saudi Arabia that I sort of looked at and thought, maybe we could have just gone for that, but money talks.
Yeah,
they're one of many that have gone out and sort of smelt what Saudi have been offering and decided to jump at the opportunity. But you look at players like Neves and Milinkovic Savic, we could have done with one of them easily in terms of next season when we really need depth in the squad. But yeah, exciting. And like you say, what we really lacked last season was depth, and we're adding to it. So just hopefully it's not the end.
I think I think they tried to add some depth. They bring in Trossard, who ended up a really good signing. I think he proved to be a really good signing. They bring in the Polish lad. His name escapes. He's Polish, isn't he?
Jacob Kawaya, yeah.
Yeah, and there was talk he's centre back and he can play a bit in defence and midfield. I think the Timber one is interesting because Tommy Yasu just missed an awful lot of last season. I think he's really, really good. But when they're probably worried a bit over that might develop into him being injury prone, the sort of way. But that frees up White to go into centre half, so that covers it there. Rice is a fantastic signing. He's not worth that money, but that's the way the market is. There's no real argument over that. He's a better player than Xhaka. He'd give you less problems than Xhaka, you know. And I think Kai Havertz is a fantastic signing for them, because I'll let Dom in on this in a minute, but my thinking on this is, from an Arsenal point of view, is, right, Arsenal were scintillating at times last season. Martinelli, Jesus and Nketiah done a good job. Saka, Odegaard, them four were really, really good, right? I think, and Arsenal, I'm not saying they played on the break, but they tried to play an open style of football where they try to make it the pitch as big as possible and make it an open game because they back themselves. I think what Havertz, what you're going to find is, I think you're going to see Arsenal do what City have done, Liverpool have done, is they go into this box midfield and you end up with Odegaard and Havertz with Saka one side, Martinelli do that, and Jesus, and that makes a 5. But it makes 2 lads in those inside left and right positions hard to pick up, and it just makes... I think Arsenal are going to go the way Liverpool went a couple of years ago, where we're going to pen you in. And when you try to get out, we're going to make it impossible for you. We're going to have 2 centre-halves that are going to mop up everything. We're going to have full-back. Timber's a great man on the cover. And you have a full-back that's just going, like Trent did. And Robertson did as well. But I think they're really, really good signing from Arsenal. Maybe you might see 1 or 2 exits. I'm not too sure. But Dom, you know, they've got back into the Champions League. They had a good run up until probably 7-8 games out. They had a good run. But City are just City. You know what I mean? There's, like, Arsenal probably learnt last season what Liverpool have known for 3 or 4 seasons. You know, it's just so fucking difficult when you're playing against cheats, right? So when you're doing that, it's so hard that if you slip once, they'll just kill you, because they just rotate and rotate until they just find that rhythm and they're gone. But it's a really good summer from Arsenal. And people have said, like, oh, look at them spending, Liverpool should be doing this. But Liverpool were on... Like, before the start of last season, you wouldn't have put Arsenal anywhere near Liverpool's level, right? Liverpool have spent loads of money. Arsenal have as well, probably not as good. But Arsenal needed to do this. Getting the Champions League, they needed to invest. To keep at where they're at and stay in the top 4 and make sure they're in the Champions League, because I don't think the top 4 is a given for probably 18 of the clubs next season.
No, I agree with you on the Havertz situation. No, that's the one that's confusing me. That buy, I just don't feel like Arsenal needed to spend 60+ million on a player like him, if you get what I mean. I don't really know the position, his best position yet. I've seen him obviously for the likes of Germany and previously before Chelsea, and I thought, you know, he's a good player. And if I remember right, Liverpool were trying to get that for 80 million at the time, which was mental. And Twitter FC lost the marbles when he went to Chelsea instead. So I'm unsure on that one, I'll be honest. And I think Arsenal fans will probably be 50-50 thinking, did we really need to invest in that position? The Timber one, I think it's a brilliant sign, and I would have took him at Liverpool, I'll be honest, for cover at the right centre-half and the right-back position. I think he's a quality player. He's just another... the problem he's got is his height. We've got that problem already with a right centre-back in terms of our cover, like Gomez. Ball goes over his head. Quite a lot have noticed that. It's definitely an upgrade. I mean, listen, anyone who says that they'd rather have Xhaka over Rice is an absolute lunatic to begin with. But I feel what Dan's saying in terms of if they lose a midfielder, they're going to be back to square one. I kind of feel like it would have been a good piece of business to try and keep Xhaka for the squad for maybe 12 months, but obviously that's not the situation. So, yeah, I personally still think Arsenal need that man down the middle. I don't think Jesus is the man for 20+ goals. I do like him as a player. I just don't think he's that he's guaranteed to get you this many goals that they need. You've got Saka, you've got Martinelli there, you've got options. It's probably exciting times to be an Arsenal fan. I'm a bit gutted, to be honest, but it's fair play to them spending the money and putting the money where the mouth is, because Arteta's making some shrewd business up to now.
Yeah, it's like when you look at Arsenal and they were after Moises Caicedo and it was 70 to 80 million in January. Them and Chelsea were about looking, and then they seemed to change tact completely and go to Declan Rice. Now, maybe Xhaka gave the indication that they're going, they wanted someone in that mould, and I think Rice is in more of a mould of Xhaka than Caicedo is. I think he's a brilliant footballer, and I think whoever gets him does really, really well. But the thing about Jesus is, I just see similarities with Liverpool, and what I mean by that is I think Jesus becomes Firmino. I think Jesus does all that dirty work, pressing. He's very intelligent footballer, Jesus. He's not going to Man City and winning titles and going to Arsenal for that money if he's not, and playing for Brazil. But I think Havertz probably becomes their backup striker, if you get me, because he used Trossard down the middle quite a bit at the back end of last season where they went with that system. I think you'll end up seeing Trossard being the backup man left and right, and Havertz, if he's not playing in that box midfield that he'll probably go to, he'll probably end up going up front. If they're playing a game of football and Jesus isn't happening, or they're winning and they need something, they go, right, Jesus comes off, Havertz moves through the middle, and you bring in a Jorginho and you put him into midfield with whoever's there. They've definitely more depth. People are saying, Rice is in, Xhaka out. They might need one more in midfield. They may need one more midfield.
I kind of feel as though Havertz will drop in there, to be honest. And it'll be a Rice, Havertz and Ødegaard, which is,
I think that's what a lot of people are expecting. So go sort of the 4, so where you have the 4-3-3, it'll be the sort of 4-1-2-3. So you've got your 2 playing in the 10, you've got your Rice playing in the 6 or 8, whatever you want to call him. And then you've got your Martinelli, Saka and Jesus just further forward. So I'm not saying play with 2 attacking midfielders, but they'll be playing more just behind, so not far off the 10 roles. But I'd imagine that's what people are expecting. I can't imagine Havertz is coming in to play on the bench.
No, not at that money. Not at that reported wage. But you see, the way the Timber one interests me because I think you end up with Zinchenko ending up playing inside for an awful lot of the game. Besides, say, a Rice, and I think you see Havertz and Ødegaard ahead of them, and Timber, and the other centre. What's the other centre half's name? Gabriel, Saliba, and Saliba. I think them 3 will end up being your back 4 to be 3 of them. The sort of way. But I think Arsenal will go from making this an open pitch to being, dominant in the areas of where they want to play the game, and that'll be in your half. And if you want to get out, they're going to make it as hard as they can to get out, because look at them: Saka, Havertz, Ødegaard, Martinelli, Jesus. They all press the ball, and if they all press the ball and you can't get out, these 3 at the back are well able, pace wise, to cover, win tackles and get you going again. And that's where
if it's gonna work, it's gonna work well, isn't it? Like you say, with the names. But I think you touched on it earlier where we relied on certain specific players last season, and Martinelli is one of them. I think he had a phenomenal season last year, and it came out of nowhere because he's always been under the radar. Because you look at your Saka and you look at your Ødegaard, and Martinelli's just there, and people didn't put him in certain brackets or conversation. But I thought he was phenomenal, and a lot of people would disagree, but I thought he had a better season than Saka last year. But because Saka is known as that world-class player, he'll always be, the higher man. But Martinelli, it's going to be a big task to get him to sort of pull those sort of numbers again next year. I think we're going to have tougher competition. So, we're going to need all guns blazing. And if Havertz can contribute to that and bring in numbers where people like Martinelli don't necessarily do so, then I'm all for it. We're going to need that. We're going to need more in an attacking perspective. Definitely, that I don't agree. I'm completely back in, because we can't just rely on them 3. They're young and they're going to be in Champions League football. They're not used to a lot more games, midweek games, playing different types on the weekday, traveling on Monday nights for some time. It's all going to be new. So I agree with the fact that someone like Havertz needed to be brought in. It was just perhaps the bottom of my priorities, and the same said for Timber as well. Because we did a similar thing a couple of seasons ago where we, speaking of Tomiyasu, actually, we brought in Tomiyasu, we spent money there, we brought in Ramsdale for 30 million, and people were questioning, and okay, we're spending money on a goalkeeper, we're bringing in defence, that's all well and good. Where's our midfield? And we were left with Mohammed El-Neni playing for majority of our season because Thomas Partey was injured. So, that won't happen now, luckily, because we've brought in Declan Rice, and I'm pretty sure Arteta knows what he's doing. And I think this deal's been on the cards for ages. He's been on the phone to Declan Rice, clearly selling him a project, because there's no way the deal gets agreed and he sits there straight away and says, Arsenal want to be, that's where I'm going to. This has been in the pipeline for months for sure. And I'm sure the agent has just been waiting to make that call and say, look, what we're offering, this is the deal. But yeah, it's just a case of keeping players fit once again, and hopefully, it needs to mould, because we're going to go from a completely different kind of formation, and that's going to be exciting, but nerve-wracking for the first few games as well, because teams are going to look at that with Declan Rice on his own in the 6-8, and he's going to have a bit of a different job to what he was used to at West Ham, in my opinion, because the likes of Souček or whoever next to him will not be there.
Yeah, well, that's my only concern over Declan Rice, is that he ends up in the base of a tree, because I don't think it suits him. I think he's brilliant at what he does with somebody beside him. I've watched him a couple of times, England in particular. At what was the last thing they played? Was it a World Cup? And he went to the base of a tree, and he just looked all over the place.
Yeah.
For the simple
and the
reason
reason he was so good is because Phillips had a phenomenal time with him.
Yeah,
as
but
well.
but that's what I'm saying. With someone beside him, I think he likes a certain part of the pitch that he goes, that's mine, and I'll do it defensively. I'll do it in the middle of the park. I'll even go forward in that position. But I know somebody's there. Whereas when he went to the 6 for England, not so much that he had a bad game. I just think he doesn't know the angles when he's playing as a 6. You know, you see really good 6s, and they know where to be when the left back has a centre back, right back. No matter who has it, they know where to be. Rice just looked the yard off it. But look, he's very young. He's a really good player. He can, and the chances are he'll learn. You know, sort of way. He's not going to stop learning. Whatever he is, 24 years of age, wherever he is. We're joined by Jamie, Spurs fan. Hey, Jamie. You're very, very welcome. We've kept Spurs for a little bit. We're going to move on to Liverpool, if that's okay. Dom, I'm going to start with you. Not a great season last season from Liverpool. It just didn't happen. You know, it's been talked to death, but they're trying to do something about it during this summer. They've spent 95 million on Dominic Szoboszlai and Alexis McAllister from RB Leipzig and Brighton. 2 midfielders, 2 8s as you would call them. Are you happy with what's been done so far? And what would you like to see in the next, I don't know, 6 weeks?
I'd say so far I'm happy, yeah, but I'm also a little bit sceptical on if there's going to be any more, because I remember Klopp saying towards the end and at the end of the season that he wants to get the business done before the pre-season starts, which officially started Saturday into yesterday. So, yeah, I'm sceptical on what else he'll bring in. Lavia's name seems to be doing the rounds so much, and it just feels like it's a matter of time before a fee's agreed. Personally, I've asked the question quite a few times with this one. Do we need another one? A lot of people say yeah, a lot of people say no. In my opinion, I'd rather see a bit of cover at the back, the money be invested there. That's just my opinion. I just don't think at the back we're equipped enough for another challenge. Van Dijk, obviously, his form was questionable. He can only get better, hopefully, with the midfield improving. Kanate, the injuries are there. He's still relatively young. We can't rely on him for a full season. So I'd like to get someone in, because I feel as though once them two have picked up an injury or a ban or something, then the drop-off is massive in the likes of Gomez, the likes of Matip, obviously Nat Phillips, he'll probably be out the door. So, yeah, I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. Everyone's been screaming and kicking and screaming to buy these players. We've signed a World Cup winner, and we signed one of the hottest young players in Europe. So, yeah, I'm happy, but I'd like to see some investment into the defence personally, because, like I said, the drop-off is huge.
They should do both. Simple. You know, the argument over do you need another midfielder or not, I think is a bit of a mad one. You absolutely need another one. Sure. You know, I think when you look at Liverpool's midfield last season, forget Ox and Milner and Keita. Forget them. Right, they're gone. Right. And people saying you need to bring in 3 because 3 have left. That is actually true, because what you have to look at is those 3 players didn't play last season, right? For the majority. Milner's 37. You're only going to get so much out of him. Those 3 didn't play last season, and what did play weren't good enough, right? Now I know you've brought in 2 really good ones, right? But if you lose one of those, or they don't hit the ground absolutely running, you're back to midfielders that you were using last season that we all said weren't good enough. And I'm not saying they're not good enough individually. They can all come on and play in games. They can start games. They can play 30, play 60, play on a Saturday, but you won't see them during the week. They can all do that. But if Liverpool end up, Liverpool have to hope that these 2, and there's a good chance that these 2 hit the ground absolutely running, and it will benefit everyone around him in the midfield, whether that's Thiago, Henderson, Fabinho, the younger lads in Elliott, Jones, Bajcetic, whoever it might be, right? But a third one has to come in because, like Dom, if those two hit the ground running, as I've said, they're brilliant. If they don't, me and you are sitting here in 3 months' time going, we're watching the same midfield we watched last season.
Well, so young Bobby Clark, who's in the under-21s. I've been quite in touch with his dad, Lee. Obviously, he used to play for Newcastle.
Yeah.
And he was saying in the last game of the under-21 season that Klopp has promised that he's going to develop the midfielders. So I'm kind of thinking if he doesn't get Lavia and they don't budge on the price, he will just do what he does with everything, dig his heels into the ground, and it'll be like, no, we'll wait until it's time. Because whilst I agree, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see a Lavia type come in because I feel like the midfield, once you get past them two, if Fabinho's not on his form, mate, you walk through like they did.
But the argument is, right, is that if Liverpool say don't sign another midfielder, we got to next summer and we're saying Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago. They're the three names that are going to pop up. One's out of contract, one's 34, maybe 33 in Henderson, and Fabinho shown a little bit of form at the back end of last season. Before that, appalling, right?
Oh yeah.
So we're doing the same dance next summer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why don't you do something now? Like, this is my argument. Do it now, okay? And you're forward planning for next summer. And you're in a much stronger position next summer that it comes around.
Just out of curiosity, when you're saying this, whilst I agree with what you're saying, like I've said, if we bring one in, fantastic. If we don't, it will be another one coming in probably January, the end of the season anyway. What do you think on the Thiago situation? Because
let him run out the contract.
For me, I can't see us bringing someone else in until someone goes out the door.
Maybe so, but that's us going on history. Where what Liverpool do, we've a habit of letting people go on frees. You know what I mean? Yeah. Instead of selling them a year early. So we have this habit of, and that's happened 6-7 players in the last probably 3 seasons, right? Just let him run out of the contract. Just let him run it out. All right.
I'm the opposite to you. That's not for me. That.
But why?
Because how many players have we had sitting on $100,000 a week?
Yeah, I know.
Running down their contract.
I understand that, but listen,
you never move on if you don't. But you see,
if you make another signing, him running out the contract and losing him next summer, the blow is softened by the fact that you've got a guy in a year already, and you have a much bigger understanding of where you stand. Well, look, me and you could go on all night. Jamie, I'll bring you in on Liverpool. Not the best last season. A lot of people feel that by signing these midfielders and improving the midfield, I think it's going to help the midfielders that are there already, and especially defensively, because I think Liverpool's biggest problem was not so much defending. It was like how open we were and how we're just easy to get at. And I think if you improve midfield, you just make. If Liverpool are hard to get at, Liverpool are going to cause trouble again next season. Where are you on them and the signings they've made and where they go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you there in terms of getting a third one in. I think you've done some really good business so far in terms of Szoboszlai and McAllister. I think that those are 2 excellent signings. I think those are 2 guys who you could certainly have in the middle. I think they go straight into that Liverpool team. I think Szoboszlai is someone who I think is able to get forward. He's going to create lots of chances. McAllister obviously can do a bit of both. I think that he is a very good signing as well. So you've got 2 good midfielders there. I think the concern for Liverpool maybe would be, is Fabinho. Obviously, he had a difficult season last year. I think he is a fantastic player. Obviously, had a difficult season last year. So I think you're right. I still think maybe one more is needed for Liverpool. I really like Lavia. I think that he could do a really good job there. I think that would be a great signing for Liverpool. And I think someone said in the comments as well about him being homegrown, obviously under 21 as well. So that would be really good for kind of European quotas and everything. It was just a player that really impressed me. I mean, in particular, I remember watching him against, it was Arsenal when they drew 3-3 and should have won that game. Looked really good there. So I think that's the one area that I certainly would, if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be wanting to address getting some sort of holding midfielder. And then I think you're right as well. I think, Dom, you mentioned it about cover for the defence as well. I think that's another area that needs addressing. So those are definitely the 2 areas, but 100% agree. Defensive midfielder is needed, but do you know what? I've been impressed so far by what Liverpool have done. I think you've got 2 excellent signings there in McAllister and Szoboszlai. I think it's going to really improve you. So But yeah, you're right. Bit more to go though for Liverpool, I think. But it's only early as well. So it's it's still
the six
as much
weeks
as
to
we
go in the
obviously
window.
got-
But Liverpool fans walk off the fact that we play a league game in 4 weeks. The sort of way. And it's like we should have them all in. And Klopp has said he likes to get business done early, which he has. But some things can take 6, 7, 8 weeks into a window before you can get it done. And by the way, Dom, I agree with you on the centre back stuff. I think the Levi Caldwell link I feel is an opportunistic one where
It'd be ideal.
well, he would be ideal, but I think Liverpool probably looked and went, who can we get for 25 million, 30 million, and can do a job left hand side if needed? And this has popped up, and they went, you know what, we're gonna barrel in on this and see what happens. It would be ideal. I can't see it happening personally. No. I think if he doesn't go to Chelsea, I think he ends up at Brighton. I think Brighton use him as not as a make weight in a deal, but carrot and stick for Moises Caicedo. That's where I think that might go, but he would be ideal. 33 days to Sassuolo till our first game. Then where are you on Liverpool?
Yeah, I'm pretty much echoing a lot of thoughts here, but I think touching on the defence, I actually to be fair, two of my best friends are actually Liverpool fans, and I've spoke a lot to them this season about how you went in and you bought Diaz, you bought Jota, you bought Nunes. You sort of went and tried to get the front three figured out. You lost a huge player in Firmino, and I'm gutted to see him leave the Premier League if I'm putting my Arsenal hat off, because I think he's phenomenal. Horrible against us as an Arsenal fan. I hated playing against him. I think you could bet your arm and your leg for him to score against us every time we had you. But Szoboszlai, I think he's a great fit for that sort of replacement if anyone's going to do it. Because I think Jamie was mentioning how he can create chances, get forward, and he can sort of help out the midfield as well. You're going to need that next season. I've read so many different rumours. God knows what's going to happen with the likes of Thiago and Henderson. But yeah, even just mentioning those names, it's just red flags. They can't really tick the boxes for you anymore, and it's going to be a tough season. I think this will be one of the toughest Premier League seasons we've had in years. I think top 4 title race, everything's going to be up for it, because you've got Chelsea that are going to come back up, yourselves that are going to finally be in that conversation again. Brighton will still be up there, I honestly believe, if they make the right decisions. I think there's a lot to do for Liverpool. I think now that you've got your front three sorted, you've got to sort that midfield, because Szoboszlai and McAllister, I think for me, it's just a little bit too attacking. And you might be in a position where we could have been if we didn't sign Rice, where that midfield gets exposed. If you're on the count, you'll just have players absolutely laughing when they break on a counter because your defence is looking weak. Van Dijk really lost his way. He's not, and you're not going to have seasons like you've had with Matip and Konate, and they're not going to come every year. I hope, obviously you boys will hope that it does happen this season if you don't bring someone in. But Trent's been developed as sort of a midfielder now as well. People might look at that. So huge concern at the back. If I was Klopp, I would be really focusing on it. And Van Dijk's old as well, so you're going to need to think about it sooner or later. But yeah, I would personally think you should, like I say, take my Arsenal hat off at the moment. I think you need to get another defender in first before, or at least, if you're going to get rid of Henderson and Thiago, etc., then fine, sign someone. But if you're keeping them just as depth and the experience and leadership or whatever, then at least get someone you can rely on at the back, because that's your bread and butter. There's no point having a cracking midfield and spending 100 on your midfield if your defence are just going to concede every corner or set piece. It's crucial. Yeah, but yeah, so far so good. McAllister's been the signing of the season.
45 million, I think.
I think it's the most outrageous bid I've seen in a long time, to be honest. When I saw the fee, I thought, you're seeing Enzo walk in £80 million or 100 million or whatever it was at Chelsea. No one had ever heard of him. And then McAllister, a name on everyone's lips, is just walking into Liverpool for that. Brilliant business.
It's it's definitely one where I hope that the midfield, developing midfield helps the defence, and I think it will. But I'm with all you when you talk about a defensive behind the midfield. I want to see Bajcetic play an awful lot of football next season. I think the lad is special, but I don't want to hang my hat on him, and that's where we have him running before he can walk, sort of thing. So I think if you do bring someone in, like a Lavia or whoever it might be, if you bring someone in, you're forward planning for next summer. You're getting ahead of the game next summer, but you're also giving lads that have real potential to feel free to express themselves, and when they come on, they can play without worrying that it's all on my shoulders. And it was a bit like that last season. Let's move to Spurs. Jamie, I don't know where to start. Right?
I can't wait to talk about this.
But Jamie, look, Ange Postecoglou, was that? Am I saying that right? I don't know. Just Ange, right? He's come in the door. Really good record up at Celtic. Really, really well liked. Really good coach. His style of football is really good.
Yeah.
I think it might actually suit Spurs, the style of football. It's good football, but it's hard work. Hard work when you watch them play, right? You have him coming in. You've all the stuff around Harry Kane. They've signed the guy on a free from Shakhtar Donetsk today, haven't they, Solomon?
Yeah, Manuel Solomon.
Yeah. So where do they sit at the moment? Because as much as the Harry Kane stuff is going on, I don't know where that lies. I'm just hearing Bayern and 60, 70 million, 80 million. Where do you feel Spurs squad sits at the minute? And what do you think will happen with Harry Kane?
So firstly on Harry Kane, how I see the situation playing out, I think that he'll stay one more year, almost certainly against his will. I think if he had the opportunity to leave, he would take it. But I think Spurs are going to end up asking too much money for him. I don't think Bayern have that sort of money. We're looking at probably £100 million. So I think he'll stay another year. And then it will either be he'll commit to a new contract because Spurs have done really well and there's something really promising going on. We've actually won something. I think that's unlikely at the moment. Or he leaves on a free transfer and obviously gets all the benefits that come from that, a big signing on fee, kind of the pick of the clubs that he wants to go to as well. So I think that's how the situation will play out. And there's obviously a lot of talk about Bayern Munich coming in for him. I don't think that will actually materialise. It would certainly surprise me if he did leave this summer. So that's the situation with Kane. Do you know what? On Ange Postecoglou, there's a lot of optimism around him, to be honest. I mean, look, we've obviously tried the Contes, the Jose Mourinhos. That's not really what Spurs are about. It's just not really worked for us. And I think kind of going back to a manager who has obviously had to work to kind of get here. He doesn't feel like he's bigger than the club. I think that's a big thing. Obviously, I think it really helps as well. He's just done his first press conference. Everyone was really impressed by the way he spoke. Obviously difficult to knock the guys that are coming into this country and having to speak a foreign language, but a lot of the, Mourinho's and Contes, it's been very difficult to listen to them. And, they've kind of at times spoken, almost in riddles really. And Postecoglou has come in, even on his first day, just the way he talks is really refreshing. He's really honest and open. I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how he gets on with Harry Kane returning on Wednesday. And I think that they're going to have that chat and that'll be interesting to see how that gets on. But yeah, just everything. He's really impressed so far. I think a lot of Spurs fans really on side with him now. You look at his footballing philosophy as well, much more suited to what Spurs fans want. Obviously, we've got this motto of today is to do. We want to play attacking football. The last couple of years been very difficult to watch. So yes, I think there's optimism for next season with the new manager. But we do also we've got a lot of work still to do. I think we've done some good work so far.
What have you done, ins and outs?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll speak about the outs in a minute. It's been a bit concerning, but in incomings, I've been quite impressed with Vicario has come in from Italian club Empoli. I don't know a lot about him, but from what I've heard from a lot of Italian, people that support Italian clubs and everything, he was linked with a lot of the top Italian clubs to kind of replace their keepers. I think Andre Nana is obviously going to Manchester United. He was being linked with a move to Inter Milan, Vicario.
Will this guy come in as number one?
Yes. So it's going to be interesting. So he's going to be the number one choice. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how he does get on. I mean, I said I don't know enough about him to really comment. From what I've heard, he is obviously he seems like a really good keeper. Did really well in Serie A last season and has done for the last couple of years. Much better with his feet as well than Hugo Lloris. Hugo Lloris has been a fantastic shot stopper and obviously a brilliant servant for us, but you just can't play out from the back. So that's a big help. So Guillermo Vicario's come in, got him for a good fee. Obviously, I prefer David Raya, but club went with Vicario. James Maddison, for me, I don't know what you guys think about this. Fantastic signing. I'm really, really excited for this one. I'm most excited I've been for a signing for a very long time at Spurs. I think he's going to be perfect for Postecoglou's system. So that's a great signing as well. Manuel Solomon. It's a free transfer. I think he did okay in his time at Fulham. He's only going to come in as kind of like a squad option. I'm not going to go overboard with him in terms of what I think he's in terms of how I think he's going to do. I think it's a perfectly okay signing. I said it's a free transfer. He's 23. Did okay at Fulham last year. We'll see kind of how it goes on. It's a very low risk one. What we need to do is sign central defenders, and this is very much the same boat about Liverpool fans and demanding signings now and talking about how close it is to the season. Spurs fans are doing exactly
Harry
the
Maguire.
same with centre backs. Really?
I'm just throwing it out there.
Please.
If Spurs want to go absolutely mental for next season and be box office, just sign Harry Maguire.
Please make my day. Harry Maguire.
Who's left the club?
Well, this is the problem. We've not really had many outgoings. The one big one we've had so far was Harry Winks going to Leicester. We've somehow fleeced them for £10 million for him. I do not know how we've managed to do that.
Wasn't he in the Sampdoria team last season?
Yeah.
Well, they got relegated.
Yeah.
But he managed to put them down as well. So he did. I think he did okay, but
He'd do okay at Leicester.
Not. It's a good player in there. I just think he's been really hampered by injuries, and I think that he's never really had like a run in the team. Obviously, he had a good year in one of the Champions League years. We beat Real Madrid, who were the reigning champions at the time, and he had a really good game. But I think he picked up a big injury a couple of like a month or so later, and was never really the same player. But yeah, there's just not been many outgoings, and that's been a big concern because we know obviously there was a run, always trying to operate with almost like breaking even or trying to make a profit. So to bring in new players, Spurs are going to have to move some on, and we've really struggled with that so far. I think Ryan Sessegnon was another one we were looking to move on. We've had a bit unfortunate with him because he's just picked up another injury, so he's another one who's going to be staying. Obviously, Lloris yet to go as well. He's already kind of come out and said that he felt like it was the end for him, but he's not gone yet either. So
yep,
we've got Davinson Sanchez.
It's the end, but I'm just hanging around here, lads. Just don't mind me, like.
So you're right. So we've got so many players just kind of hanging around at the moment. So yes, we need to kind of get a bit of a move on now with outgoings because that's starting to be a little bit of a concern for me because we're not really doing too much in that department.
Yeah. Then, just on Spurs, and try to talk without laughing, will you? But this Harry Kane stuff, it just feels like a bit of a rerun of not last summer, the summer before when he's linked with Man City. And it's like City were willing to pay 100 million. Spurs were saying, no way. He's doing interviews with Gary Neville because Gary Neville just does them sort of things. And now it just feels a bit like a rerun where they go, no, he's a year left now. Give us 100 million and he's not going anywhere. Are they cutting off their nose to spite their face a little bit here? Because if it's a new manager, I know he wants Harry Kane to stay. Like, he's a brilliant forward. He's the amount of goals he scored is phenomenal. And he probably will, if he stays at Spurs for a year or two, or another Premier League team, he'll break the Premier League scoring record that's held by Alan Shearer. But do Spurs need to look bigger picture here? If they're trying to work within a budget and they're getting 80 million quid for a 30-year-old who'll probably go to Bayern, won't affect them in any way. Not like he's playing for United or Chelsea or City. How do Spurs balance this? You know, you hear these players coming in like, right, they bring in a goalkeeper, which they badly need because Lloris for me is a walking disaster and has been for an awful long time. Like, you know what I mean? He's a World Cup winner, but he's an absolute walking disaster. They bring in him. They bring in a free transfer, fine. Maddison's a good sign of 40 million, I think, but he'll have to work hard. This fella wants hard-working footballers while playing well. But are they hamstringing themselves just for the sake of it here on a pride sort of principle here?
I mean, for me, it's a tough one because look, I'll take my Arsenal hat off for a couple of minutes while I can and try and talk a bit as if I'm just a football fan. But I think Tottenham need to be very, very careful because, like you said, last season I kind of understood that whole thing because you don't want Harry Kane to go and be playing against you all season. And he went and did phenomenal things again for him this season. So, last season, shall we say, considering the position they ended up in, unbelievable the amount of numbers he was getting. And I think if he sits in the team of the season for me, without doubt, and I'd be shocked if anyone could disagree considering. But if you look at a player with not long left on their contract And I agree, the things he's done are amazing. And people keep having this conversation about Shearer's record. He's flown high, but eventually the wings will burn. You're asking a big, big thing for him to stay in the Premier League for another 2 years, and I'm pretty sure it's around 50 goals he's got to reach. So you're asking for him to do that again for the next 2 years, and that realistically is going to mean Tottenham shining bright. And I don't mean to be rude to, I'm just going to call him Ange. I'm not going to try and pronounce the son. But someone said it to me the other week when I was on my own channel, and it was quite, it did make me laugh, but he did have a point. And I kind of get what Jamie's saying with it would be nice to have someone different and not someone that just comes and says things you expect him to say. Like with Mourinho, you kind of understand what pitch he's going to bring with him. They've all these superstar managers. What's an angry Australian going to do in the dressing room? What's he going to change with these players? And there's so much to do. I feel like he's starting behind the 8 ball and he's never going to get out because there is the goalkeeper situation, which they've kind of come from. And, Hugo Lloris, someone said to me last year, Forster's come in to fight for that number 1. And I laughed at him. I seriously was just like, you're having a joke. He's the French captain. He's number 1. He's not going anywhere. And then now look, he's on his way out and they're trying to get rid of him. And they've got the whole defence. And I feel like the conversation we just had with Liverpool and Arsenal, maybe addressing the wrong problems first and they're having the wrong priorities, I find it a bit baffling. I get that he likes Premier League attacking football, but sort out the defence first, maybe. Or at least make sure that's done and then sign players like Maddison.
Yeah, but right, I get where you're coming from. Like they've had all these world class managers and all, but you're saying Spurs need to be careful. I think Spurs have made a good appointment because Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte have no interest.
That was mainly on the Harry Kane thing, by the way.
Yeah, I get that, but that might actually strengthen the argument for Harry Kane to leave, right? Because Spurs needed to be careful with their appointment. If they appoint another Mourinho or Conte type, they're just going down the route of this fella just thinks he's God's gift. Okay, what he says goes. I'm going to get these players in. You're going to do what I say, and there's no interest. Even if they're successful, 3 years down the line, they're gone. Forget about it. They're gone. This guy is different. I said it when I think I spoke to Jamie before, and I said to Jamie, when you're getting your next manager, I was all over the guy at Brentford because he's not the biggest profile. But you bring him in, he has a definite idea what he wants to do. He knows he can work within a budget. They can attack, they can defend, they can go long, they can do whatever. He's a really good scope of what he does at Brentford for me. And this is why I think if Spurs are going to commit to a rebuild, which I think they have in this management appointment, they might have to commit to a rebuild by going, listen, Kane is one of our all-time greats. Son even is one of our all-time greats if you want to go down that road. We need not 2 of them, but we probably need 1 to go if we're working in a budget. We're all tied together. Like, Dom, where are you on it? Because it seems a bit basket case, I suppose, but they're not, for me, far off making 1 or 2 major decisions that puts them on the right road with this manager.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Kane's in a tricky situation himself because it only feels like Bayern Munich are the ones who can actually get him. Because Man United, I think, personally, as much as I can't stand the club, if I'm Man United, the first player I'm looking at in the summer is Harry Kane. They haven't done it, so there's a reason behind that. Bayern Munich, I just don't feel like he goes there. It doesn't really make sense. Okay, he can win a trophy, but for me, Kane feels like he wants this Premier League all-time top scorer more than anything. And you can't really argue with that because, it'd be top of the list, but I don't think he'd get to the Tottenham because I think it'll take a year or 2 to do this actual rebuild. But if I'm Postecoglou, I'm saying to Levy, listen, we need this decision doing in the next few days. He needs to either be gone or he needs to sign a new contract because I can't work out what the hell I'm going to do until that decision's made. We know Spurs operate on a budget. It's quite similar to us to an extent, but I feel like until he's out the door, that rebuild can't happen. So, but again, them goals what he provides are just so important. It's such a difficult situation because 80 million, it doesn't get you much nowadays. And you've got to be bang on it when you replace that player. Harry Kane, 30 goals a season is probably near enough impossible. There's
no point signing James Maddison and then getting rid of Kane either because you're going to need someone in front of him. Maddison's not going to bring in 15, 16, 17 goals. He needs a poacher, and he needs the finisher that Kane is.
Yeah.
You know, you saw what he did with when Maddison had his best days. He had Tielemans next to him, and he had Vardy in front of him.
Yeah.
When he goes to Tottenham, he's going to have neither of those things.
But does it all depend on what Harry Kane's aspirations are? Like, does Harry Kane genuinely believe Spurs under this manager in the next 2-3 seasons are going to challenge for a title or win a cup or whatever it might be? Maybe they will. You never know. He could hit the ground running. Like, maybe he will, but it might be just down to the fact that Harry Kane has said, "No, do you know what? I haven't won trophies, but I'm going to be Spurs all-time record goal scorer. That's enough for me." I don't know, but
What a trophy!
but the thing is, right? But the thing is, like, and the funny thing is, like, when you talk about strikers, you never kind of go, "Oh, he won all that." They don't. They just go the amount of goals he scored. That's what you read out. The first thing you read out about goal scorers is like when Ian Rush 346 goals, I think, for Liverpool in his career. No one ever reads out what Ian Rush won for Liverpool. No one. They just say he's the record goal scorer.
No, but he did though, didn't he?
But he did.
That's the thing.
I get that, and maybe there's so much made of not winning trophies that will hang on Harry Kane. But I agree with you when you with them when you say with all these when you say it probably needs to be sorted quickly, and it's probably Harry Kane that needs to sort it by saying, "Listen, I want to go. I'm not signing another deal. I will go for free next year at 31. You can either take the 80 and I'm going," or he turns around and says, "Listen, I want a 4-year deal. I want this amount of money. If you think I'm worth it, you pay it now and I'll stay with you." But that decision, I think, has to be made. It's going to be very interesting at Spurs, I think. But like you said, decisions will have to be made quick because he's a new manager. He's got to have ideas. He's not. I don't think he's the type that walks in there and goes, "Oh, all these players are great." You know, I think he'll work with the majority of them, but I think he'll still want a few more in. And with Spurs trying to balance books and whatever else, that's the way they work. I completely get that. Decisions will have to be made quick. We've 5 minutes left, so let's touch on another few clubs, right? Dom, go on, give me 2 minutes on Everton.
You need all night.
Can I laugh for 2 minutes?
Do what you want.
No, I, for the last 2 years, I've been thinking this is it. This is the moment. They're gone. But from what I'm seeing, let's take the Liverpool hat off. Let's take everything else off. They look, pardon me French, fucked.
You can say what you like on this channel.
I'm looking at it from just a football fan's perspective. The squad that I've seen, their squad list that they've travelled out to wherever they've gone for these pre-season friendlies is borderline championship at best. There's maybe a couple of players that would probably get into a bottom half Premier League side. That's how bad it's going. Ashley Young, listen, I'm not going to argue with that signing because I think where they are, they've got no choice. They need numbers. The left backs, that Mikalenko is absolutely dog shit. So they need to bring someone in to replace him. Ashley Young, 38 years of age, replacing
He's
your
not
left back.
38.
He is.
He's not.
He fucking is.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
Mate,
Ashley Young's not 38.
37, 10 or 38.
if you think about it, when was he playing for England? And he was about a good 24, 25 then. So
The thing is with him, listen, he's a solid player and he'll give them 110%. He will do good. He's a leader in the dressing room. He's been there, hasn't he? He hasn't really done much. But he's going to Everton in a sinking ship, in my opinion.
Chris Black says they're linked to Weghorst, and I've also seen links to, and this can't be right, Shane Long.
Shane Long at 36, he's linked as well on a free.
And
Yeah,
of course,
The question you
he
asked
is
before
38.
is,
but like,
where do I see Everton? Down in the Championship next season.
but the funny thing is, like, they don't take on Connor Cody at $4.5 million. You can argue over Cody's season last season. I think if you put him in a back four, he's all over the shop. He has to play in a back three, right?
That's why Wolves sold him.
Right. So he's gone there, right? They've sold Ellis, what's his name? Sims. For $8 million to Coventry, who genuinely was that backup striker last season. Was that backup striker. They've sold him for $8 million. So our championship club circling Everton going, listen, we can get players for fuck all here. Like our championship club's bullying Everton.
If Coventry are signing players from Everton, they're quite serious about their push for next season, and it could be Everton swapping places with these clubs. That's how bad it is right now. I speak to Everton fans pretty much every day in work, and you ask them a question about the club, and they genuinely don't want to talk about it. They have no idea where they stand. They've got no idea where the board and the investment is up to. They don't know if the ground's going to actually get finished. they're in an absolute mess, and it's probably the worst state of a Premier League team I've seen in a long time.
But Dom, just before I bring the other two lads in, right? If there was no movement at all, you kind of go, they're waiting on a sale here before they commit, but they're actively selling young players for £8 million, right? There's another one as well, isn't there? Cannon. I think he was at Preston. He was an Everton loanee as well. And I don't know what's going on with him, but they're actively selling these young and bringing in 38-year-old Ashley Young, linked with 36-year-old Shane Long. So it doesn't feel like there's anything on the horizon where the financial situation changes. Is it a case of this possible punishment that's coming from the Premier League with regards to financials? Yeah. Is it a case of we're going to get done here, and when we get done, we know we're going to fucking be a 15-point deduction or a massive fine, whatever it might be. We need to cut our cloth accordingly early here before this even comes down the line. Is that where we are?
I feel like that's the situation, and I think the Everton fans as well as the board know that. I think that's why the investment hasn't come in as quick as it should have. If you want to be honest about this situation, they're selling young players because the team that they've physically got now, there's no money in it. There's only Pickford and Onana that you could probably make some money from.
Calvert-Lewin maybe, but he's never fit.
No, I doubt even that. I don't think you'd even get anyone sniffing around him at the minute because he's just wriggled with injuries. So
very close to a move to Arsenal 2 years ago. Very close to a move to Arsenal.
And look at them now. They've both gone opposite ways. Calvert-Lewin's played a couple of games a season. Absolutely tore.
The January before last, I think it was more like I think he was done to Arsenal, and then an injury came. Jamie, Everton.
Yeah, do you know what Dom said it earlier there? We've always kind of thought they looked like they were going down. I think this year will be the year they go down. It reminds me very much of, I think it was Leicester last season, where really didn't look like they were bringing in many players. It was kind of their financial situation didn't really allow them to bring in new players. They were unable to refresh the squad. And it seems like a very similar case here with Everton. And obviously the worst happened to Leicester. They ended up going down. They just needed a real refresh in that team, and even the manager as well. I just think that you needed to be a bit more ambitious and kind of, Everton are as a club almost on the same level as Spurs. They should be on that level, and they should be wanting more ambitious than having a manager like Sean Dyche and the squad they do. But they just seem to be unable to do that financially at the moment. And as I said, very much reminds me of the situation at Leicester. And then if you compare the two squads at the moment, two kind of stale squads, there was quality in that Leicester team. They at least had that James Maddison, obviously other players in the defence as well, midfield, Tielemans. There was some quality in that team. With this Everton team, there isn't that quality either. So they've got a team that's completely stale, no quality either. I think they've got a manager in place who obviously is good for keeping teams in the division, but I think he's really going to struggle this year with Everton. I think that there's not really anything to hold on to. Maybe Calvert-Lewin and can he stay fit? That might potentially be somewhere where they've got some goals there, but I just don't know. You can't really rely on him at the moment. So, yeah, I think they're in really, really big trouble, and I think this will be the season that they do eventually go down.
Yeah, it's a weird one because Yerry Mina has left the club as well, hasn't he? He would have been on big wage as well. And then you have Andros Townsend left now. He was injured for the last year, but Andros Townsend was a start for them when he was fit. You look at Seamus Coleman at 36, I think, signed another 1-year deal. This smells of, for me, they know something's coming down the track here. And they know, and even they're not even, because I'm seeing them linked with 20 and 30 million pound players. I'm like, hold on. Now it's Shane Long and fucking Mark Weghorst and Ashley Young's 38 has blown my mind, to be perfectly honest. But it just stinks to me that they know something's coming and they can't approach anyone. They're bringing in players and they're basically saying to the players, listen, we might be in trouble here, but get you back in the Premier League, Shane Long. Keep you in the Premier League, Ashley Young. And we'll wait and see, because I don't think this will come down the tracks before the season starts with regards to the financial fair play. But if it even feels like the just no money to be invested there. Like, instead of moving on from this near relegation and investing, they're actually in a position where we've survived, but we actually have nothing left in the tank here. We're going to have to regress again and hope for the best. Dan, I'm going to give you the last word on tonight. Talk to me about Chelsea.
That really spun me. I mean, what is there to say? 600 million spent, not really the season they expected last year, and now here comes Saudi Arabia saving their bacon. Look, I don't know what's going on there.
Investors in Chelsea Football Club
Investors,
saving their
yeah.
bacon.
I find like we're here talking about financial fair play, and just for their record with Everton, they sold Richarlison for 65 mil and Anthony Gordon for 40 mil. I don't know where that money went. So
I'll tell you
if
where it
they're
went.
doing,
They lost 276 million over 3 years before they signed those players. You're only
There
allowed
you
to lose
go.
105 million over 3 years. Their
But yeah.
percentage of wages to income was something like 89%. Usmanov had his assets frozen, who was, I think, the man actually putting the money into Everton. So it's all come, and then
Well,
you know,
for him,
if you read up on it, this is about 4 years coming for Everton financially. I'm not talking about relegation, but financially, that's where it's coming. Yeah, but go on, Chelsea. What do you expect them to do
this season? Well, look, like we're saying, I mean, I'm not going to get into that politics conversation now, but it's very dodgy what's going on with Saudi Arabia and certain clubs at the moment. The fact that they have money invested in teams and they're sort of buying players back off them, but yeah, they've got rid of a lot of the mistakes, should we say? I'll just put it out there: mistakes they made last year. I think they've got to definitely address the Lukaku situation. I actually found it quite mad that he's still on. Yeah, I actually find it quite mad that he's still on their books, to be honest. They got rid of Werner and Lukaku's still there, so they can't have as many attackers as what they've got. They've got Madaruki, Sterling, Lukaku, and Nicholas Jackson. How does that all fit in? They've got far too much going on, and the midfield. I feel like we're just sort of going back and forth and having the same conversation, but the midfield's not all exactly intact now. They lost Jorginho to us. They've lost Kante. They brought in Enzo. That's great. But Loftus-Cheek was playing a few games from last season. He's gone now. Who are they realistically? Who can they count on to be that guy that's definitely going to tick all the boxes? Because at the moment, I don't think there's anyone in there that they can say is set in stone, and you need that. Thank God that they've still got Thiago Silva in the back, because he's probably the best thing out of a bad bunch, in my opinion.
Emmett says 35 million to Inter is the talk for Lukaku.
Yeah, I mean they're losing 45 mil for what they paid for him, but they'll take it. Yeah, I mean they'll take it. They need to get rid of him, but yeah, they've got a lot of problems. The leadership of Azpilicueta, that's going to be a huge miss in the dressing room. So we'll see. I think they'll be up there because Pochettino's not an idiot. I honestly think that's a great signing for them. If I'm going to take my Arsenal hat off again, I think if anyone's going to put them back in a position where at least they need to be, it'll be him. I don't think he'll win them trophies, but he'll maybe know what to do with the. I'm surprised, actually. Talking of Harry Kane, I'm surprised that hasn't been in conversation because they were very close. They had and I remember when Poch went to PSG, there was a lot of talk of something similar happening. But yeah, I think they'll be okay. I think Chelsea are definitely one of the teams that I think battle with the likes of potentially Liverpool and us next season, or Man United, whoever, chalk and cheese at the moment. But I think they'll do good things, but it's all thanks to that money that Saudi has spent getting rid of some of the. And they need a keeper. I was quite shocked by the Mendy move because last season
I wasn't.
I get that Kepa really done well, but there was a time where Mendy was. A winner of God knows how many trophies. And
but God knows how many players they've gone to and gone, listen, Saudi Arabia are over there, and they're willing to move any of them on. Anybody. Yeah. If they can move them on, get a fee, Saudi take them, and it's all good. But Chelsea's another mad one. We didn't even get to Newcastle, we didn't even get to United. So Declan says, and I'm sure a lot of people will echo this, and I will, he says he really enjoyed listening to you lads tonight. Hasn't mentioned me, but listen, that's the way it goes. Most of them don't like me, but he really enjoyed listening to Dom, Den and Jamie. So we'll try to get them on next week. We might do this again next week, but listen, they could have massive, excessive wage demands, and we don't bow to nobody here. 6 cans of your favourite lager is about as far as we will stretch to, and you'll have to come and collect them as well. We don't deliver.
I'm off to Saudi. I don't know what you're on about.
Oh well, listen, come here. Well, listen, I'll send you 6 cans anyway. We will. I promise I'll try to get the lads back on next week. We'll have a round 2 on this, and we'll talk about a few clubs, and maybe a couple of transfers will have gone through by then. So, thanks to Dan, thanks to Dom, thanks to Jamie, thanks to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. put the bell icon on, so when we go live, you know about it. So you don't have to ask that question every day of the week. Is there a show tonight? Genuinely, when we set it up, you will know about it. And I keep saying this because there's a few people that just never stop asking me. That's about it. I've really enjoyed that, I have to say, that hour or so. And yeah, I'll try to get them back next week, I promise. Talk to you in a bit. Over and out.